Welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast with me, Venus O'Hara. An orgasmic lifestyle is about reaching a climax in all areas of life, not just in the bedroom. Here, we dive deep with expert guests on topics like nutrition, spirituality, personal development, sexuality, and much more. Together, we'll explore lifestyle lessons to help you lead a life that's fulfilling, joyful, and unapologetically orgasmic. I'm your guide, Venus O'Hara. Welcome to episode 164 of the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast with Venus O'Hara. In this new moon episode, we discuss orgasms and pleasure. We speak with Annette Benedetti, who did a 365 days of orgasms journey. And she's also the host of the popular podcast, Talk Sex with Annette. I also review the book, Healing Love Through the Tao, Cultivating Female Sexual Energy by Mantak Chia. And the episode ends with a meditation with affirmations for female orgasm. But first, let me share with you my own experience with daily or almost daily orgasms. Let's talk about orgasms and orgasm frequency. As I am recording this, I'm holding in my hand Echo 2 from Swacom. I've just received this product and it's going to give me my next orgasm. So when I finish recording, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. I think I'm a bit of an objectophile. When I see a toy, I kind of think, oh, what's that going to feel like? And this particular toy has a gentle curve. It's what is known as a lay-on vibrator, which means it's a external clitoral stimulator. It's the kind of toy that looks like a computer mouse. I didn't quite understand this type of toy for a very long time until I actually started using them myself, and they became one of my favorite genres of sex toys, actually. And they look very, very discreet, so they don't look like a veiny phallus, which I think a lot of people do believe that many sex toys are dildos or phalluses, and that's probably the smallest proportional representation of my entire collection. So yeah, as I have this in my hand and I'm caressing it, thinking, I wonder what this is going to do, I wanted to talk about orgasms and orgasm frequency. I remember years ago, I used to have pretty much daily orgasms and sometimes several orgasms a day. I remember one day I had 6 orgasms in a day, and it got to be a little bit excessive. I think I was using orgasm for just so many things like boredom, I couldn't, writer's block, waking up, falling asleep, all of this thing. And it got to the point where I started to get a little bit bored of my own fantasy. So I decided to actually have less orgasms and then just have orgasms as and when, and no particular agenda. But in general, I'm quite lucky in the sense that I don't have any, I don't have very tight deadlines when it comes to the sex toy reviews that I produce. So I can pretty much follow the guidance of my body and really listen to, when I'm feeling more aroused. My most popular time seems to be in the afternoon and during daylight. I don't know what happens, but when the sun goes down, my libido depletes. I just think about relaxation and sleep. I'm not really a nocturnal orgasmic person unless I'm with a lover. Of course, it's very different. But when I'm on my own, it's usually afternoons. And now with the summer in Barcelona, which is so hot, and I'm not really wearing any clothes at home these days, it just feels so nice to have this warm breeze on my naked skin and then be able to truly tap into my orgasmic energy. Yeah. So I've just come back from this amazing trip. I was in Paris and with Skirt Club, which is a community of bisexual and bi-curious women, and we had a sex magic retreat, and it was set in a 15th century castle, and I went there to actually present my book, Orgasmic Manifestation. And some of the things that I witnessed and experienced were so deep and profound and healing, and it just goes to show that still today there is so many taboos related to female sexuality, a lot of pain, a lot of trauma, and just the fact of just tapping into your own pleasure and becoming orgasmic can be really life-changing for so many women. And I witnessed some very profound transformations there. And even my own was incredibly transformational and profound. Years ago, I used to be often, I found myself in toxic relationships because I really did outsource my sexual needs to a partner. I didn't really know how to tap into my own pleasure and take care of my own needs, and then kind of choose partners from a more satisfied or satiated place. And I ended up, being in very toxic relationships because I felt like I needed that regular sex to ground me. And it got to a point where I decided, or I just realized that this was a toxic pattern that I had to break. So I left a particular boyfriend, and then I got my very first sex toy. And at first it wasn't love at first sight, because it did take me a while to actually connect with the toy. And I think a lot of people have misconceptions about masturbation and about sex toys, and one of the most popular ones that I hear is that it's going to be a cold experience because you're with a toy, not with a person. It's not an emotional connection with someone, but it really is an emotional connection with yourself, and the toy is merely a tool to get you to an expanded state of pleasure and ecstasy. And I remember when I finally made that connection, it was so life-changing to give myself orgasms, which are sometimes were, physically speaking, sometimes were better and more predictable than being with a person. And they were emotional because I was with myself. And when you connect with yourself on that level, it truly is life-changing. It can really help your confidence. It can help your body confidence. And just it can give you this really profound feeling of aliveness, which is so, so beautiful. And that's exactly what it's been like for me. But ever since I've started having a more spiritual practice around my orgasms, I would say like pleasure is like prayer. It's a very deep it's a way for me to celebrate my own body, my aliveness, the gift of life, and the present moment, because there's nothing like an orgasm to get you into the present moment where you're not thinking about how long you've been there for, what time is it, or what's or checking your phone. You're truly in the moment. So the idea of having 365 orgasms in a year is very enticing. I remember I used to record my orgasms, so I have an average of about 20 a month or something like that. But I just do think orgasm is so healing, and as I hold this toy in my hand, I cannot wait for the next one. But also a little side note about today's guest, Annette Benedetti. I actually met her in person a couple of months ago at the Aerospain fair, and it was amazing because we had a great connection, and she told me that the dates of the fair were around her birthday, and I said, "Oh, really? It's mine as well. So when is your birthday?" And we actually share the same birthday, May 21st, which is so interesting because we've ended up in the same sector, which maybe that there's maybe some astrological explanations why we are Geminis. We are communicating sexuality, but that's a kind of a little sidetrack there, but a very interesting coincidence. Anyway, let's get on with the interview and learn about the 365 days of orgasms and why you might want to do that. Seeing as we're talking about orgasms and the possibility of having 365 orgasms a year with Annette Benedetti, why not explore a new pleasure product? I've partnered with Svarcom, an award-winning pleasure brand that offers a wide range of premium products made from body-safe materials. Whether you're looking for a wand massager, rabbit vibrator, clitoral stimulator, wearable vibrator, stroker, cock ring, or something completely different, there's something for everyone. And to make your shopping experience even more orgasmic, you can enjoy 35% off site-wide with my exclusive discount code Venus35. Simply visit svarcom.com, that's SVAKOM.com, and enter the code Venus35 at checkout and treat yourself to something that brings you pleasure. The link is also in the show notes. Enjoy! Now it's time for this episode's interview. We speak with Annette Benedetti, who did 365 days of orgasms, and she's the host of the popular podcast Talk Sex with Annette. Annette Benedetti, welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle podcast where every day is a climax. How are you today?
I am doing great, and thank you so much for having me.
Oh, wonderful. So, for those who are unfamiliar with your work, could you tell us what you do?
So I'm a sex and intimacy coach, and I'm the host of Talk Sex with Annette podcast, where I'm basically trying to help people understand what real arousal feels like, and then how to have real pleasure-based sex with yourself or with somebody else.
Amazing. So, what inspired you to follow this path?
I've talked about it a lot, but I'm a survivor of sexual assault when I was younger, and also then growing up in a culture that really shamed sexuality. I spent most of my younger life in my 20s and 30s having disconnected sex where I wasn't having orgasms. I was also told and educated to believe that it was very normal for women not to have orgasms. Like I was told that I'd be lucky if I had one from external stimulation, and that if I never had an internal orgasm, that's absolutely normal. Some women don't have G spots. That was sort of the education as I was growing up. I've always been a very sort of sensual person, and that's where I've felt a lot of power. And so, in having that part of myself shamed, I felt disempowered a lot. And when I hit midlife, just was I was unhappy, unfulfilled, and I wanted to reclaim that part of myself. And so I started a journey that has brought me here. And in the act of reclaiming my sensuality and my sexual power, I've just become a more happy, whole person. And I don't believe I could have ever gotten here without that journey.
Wow. So, tell us, so how did that happen then? So, it was a curiosity of yours, and then it became your profession. So, how did that happen?
So, yeah, I think it started out as the reclamation process sort of woke me up, which was just kind of I hit my 40s and I was so unhappy and I missed that part of me that used to feel alive. It was prior to having children and being married, being that flirty part of myself that would draw people to me. And so I embarked on trying to find that part of myself again, which included a lot of masturbation, a lot of solo sex, mostly solo sex for a long time. And as I started to experience more kinds of orgasm and to feel embodied again, it changed how I was walking out in the world. And then I was a writer at the time, so I decided to start writing about it, which was very scary, as I'm sure you're familiar with, because you don't know how people are going to receive it. And so I started writing I have this little blog called She Explores Life. I started writing about my journey and about intimacy as I was experiencing it. And then one day, me and my friends just came up with this idea of doing my podcast. Started out Locker Room Talk and Shots. It was during the first Trump administration. I was very motivated by the fact that this man who was able to talk so boldly about grabbing them by the pussies and sex was able to become president. And I thought, well, women, if we said something like that, it would ruin a career. But what if we decide to take that power back? So I started what was called a podcast called Locker Room Talk and Shots, based on the locker room comment. And my friends and I would have drinks together and talk about sex. And just that journey of starting to speak openly with other women about their experience and then continuing my own journey. So I would learn things from them and then I would try them. And then I started talking to professionals and sexologists and sexperts out there, and I started my own learning process, and everything just grew from there. And then I was like, as I learned more and more and educated myself, people started reaching out to me to help them in their sex lives, and it sort of exploded from there. And then in 2022, on January 1st, I decided to do a 365 days of orgasm challenge, where I had one orgasm a day for a year. When women heard about this, the first thing they said, and I'm curious about your thoughts on this, was, "Oh, that sounds exhausting." They reacted in horror pretty much to and revulsion to this idea of trying to accomplish this thing every day. While men, on the other hand, were like, "I've been doing that since I was 15," right? It was a very interesting difference. And so that journey, and I did accomplish it, was transformative in just lots of different ways, right? I, well, first of all, I learned how to have sex with myself and be my own best lover, which has definitely made me a better lover to other people. But I started having G-spot orgasms and A-spot orgasms and blended orgasms. And my body is now capable of doing things that I never dreamed were possible. And it definitely has changed, transformed who I am out in the world. Gaining all of that pleasure back and the access to it and feeling fully embodied has made me so much more powerful in my whole life.
Personally, I'm super interested in the non-sexual application and implication of being so orgasmic. Can you share some ways and how it's transformed your non-sexual life?
I think that when you go through this process of making yourself connect with sexual
Mm,
pleasure every day, in order to maintain that and continue it, you have to understand it's not possible to do it in isolation, meaning isolating that pleasure to the bedroom, to the whatever 15 to 45 minutes to hour you spend with yourself. It forces you to start to seek out pleasure in other areas of your life. And also, you just start naturally noticing, like you step outside and you feel the wind against your skin as you become more embodied, right? You become more connected to the pleasure that's all around you. So
mm,
it helps you be present in moments that instead you may have been outside of your body up here worrying about, did I get the kids to school? What am I going to make for dinner tonight? And it brings you back to the moment in life where you're supposed to be living. And I think the more that you get out of this space where you feel out of control
mm,
and you get centered in the space where you have control, right? And you can experience things fully, the more that you feel centered and powerful and like you're living from this rooted, stable place than from this sort of chaotic, disembodied place.
mm.
I always say that, people will ask me, Annette, why does everything have to be about sex? Why is it all sex? And I'm like, because sex
Is
is
everything?
connecting everything. It's everything. It is
Mm,
everything. That's why sex doesn't start in the bedroom. You know all of
mm,
this, right?
mm,
Sex doesn't start in the bedroom. It starts when you wake up. If you have a partner, how you talk to them, how you touch them, how you lay your hand on them, the things you say throughout the day. You can either make it foreplay or not, right?
mm.
Like these small things, the whispers, the compliments, the suggestions, it's in the fabric of every moment of our day, if you will.
I feel that as writing about sex all day and just kind of making this content, I feel like I'm in a chronic state of perpetual edging. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know sometimes I was I have this new toy I was checking out and reviewing, and I was writing about it, and I was like, oh, and I was thinking about the next one I had to as
I know.
reviewing toys, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even have a choice but to have orgasms all the time. Well, I mean, I could edge, but as I'm even like writing about it, I like find myself like wiggling around in my seat a little bit.
Mm,
And how lucky am I? Because I think it's really hard sometimes in a world that demands so much of us and that has so much going on, especially, in here in the States, things are very stressful
mm,
and stress just shuts down
mm.
arousal, positive arousal or sexy arousal. So I feel very lucky that I have something I'm brought back to pleasure in like my work because I've got to think about it every day. But I also understand that isn't um that's not what the average person gets to do, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. And yeah, absolutely. But sometimes one problem I had was a sex toy tester problems. That could be a hashtag. One problem I have sometimes is that I have to review this toy, but I want to try this toy. Does that happen to you?
all of the time. Or I'm like, but I really just want to get in bed with my old favorite. I've got a
Yeah.
favorite toy that I use. I'm like, I know this one's going to give me all the kinds of orgasms, and then I've got the new one to try, and I'm like, yeah, but I want spend. So yeah.
I can't really afford to have preferences anymore. There's just too many things to try. And sometimes a really good toy is after the review if you're still trying it, you know.
100%. I have the ones that go into my bedside stand. I
Mm,
have ones that go into the bathroom in case I want a quickie in the bathroom. And
mm,
then you get the ones that kind of get shuffled upstairs to like kind of go in and out. Well, for me upstairs to go in and out of my play space if I want them ever again. But yes, you have so many new ones coming in, and the technology is just getting better and better, you
mm.
know.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating. But something I'm always curious about how other people store their toys. Because there's here in Barcelona there is an erotic museum, and they've got these toys that are 100 years old. It's fascinating. Some of the originals, like the Jolly Molly, the originals that were like, the film Hysteria. Have you seen this film?
Seen
Oh my
this
God, I
film.
think everyone in our industry should see it. It's about the first vibrator and it stars Maggie Gyllenhaal and it's just so good. But it has these toys that look like the massage guns. That was this kind of they were plugging into the they were electric. It's just so fascinating. Anyway, there's someone from the museum told me don't throw the boxes away because in the future, they're just worth a lot more. So I keep everything in boxes, but I'm always fascinated when follow other sex toy reviewers and I see they have these drawers with all these toys and chargers. And I think that can't be good long term. So, and even though it does take up a lot more room to keep the box, but I think the toys stay in a better condition. You're not going to lose the user manual and the cables. And also one day I want to have my collection, doing rounds of museums. It's gonna be with my review in a frame. Just a little tip there if you want to.
I like that. That's well, I just yeah got some great advice
Mhm.
because it's always a conundrum. Like,
Yeah.
where am I going to store these? I'm actually in the process of reorganizing and sort of categorizing them and stuff like that.
Yeah, I do that. I do an inventory about once a year because I have about over 1,000 in my spare room. And at first I do, categories like the G spot, the bullets, and all that. But then when I get so many of the same brand, then I go into brand boxes. So I always know where to find them. So it's really it looks like a mess, but I know where everything is, and it's kind of good to have them in boxes because and also another reason why you should keep them in boxes is that you can forget the names of them if you don't have the name on the toy.
True.
That's just come to my mind right now, but it's so true. How are you going to remember all the names? That could be we could do a game show and name that
My God,
toy.
I'm so glad you're saying this right now because I hadn't even thought about.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it either, but I was thinking more of, someone told me this because of the value of it in the future, because technology gets ages so much, and then people always ask me, are there really that many new toys, or is technology really changing? But for me as a reviewer, not just as a tester, but I want to write new things. There's only so much you can write about a rabbit vibrator. You want to be really discovering new things all the time. So I've got about, I know, 150 rabbits, and it's just fascinating how many new features they can have. And now I think it's interesting how we're going beyond vibration into movement, tapping, and these tongue things and air, and it's just really interesting to see how things are evolving. Also, almost trying to mimic human movement as well, which is
Right.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, vibration is interesting. I like it internally,
Mm-hmm.
but ever since I discovered options like pleasure air tech,
Mm,
externally for clitoral pleasure, I tend to prefer that externally.
mm,
And then tapping, I recently tried a tapping toy and I was like,
mm,
oh, but I do think for me, vibration sometimes externally
mm.
uh, I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't
Mm.
do quite the same for me, but
I
maybe.
I think the air can really ruin you for other toys. For sure. I
Okay.
think for me, I have to
So
stop
thank
doing
you
it
for saying
sometimes.
that.
Yeah,
Like whoever
absolutely.
thought that up was like, A genius.
It's about 10 years old this year, actually. But imagine what's going to come in the future if that was just a 10-year thing, 10 years ago. So I'm curious about, so what's your routine like? Do you have a certain time of the day where you have your daily orgasm, or does it just depend? Because sometimes do you ever get to the end of the day and you think, oh my God, I've not had my orgasm. I don't really feel like it. What are the challenges
Yeah.
of having daily orgasms?
Yeah. So one of the things I really learned to do throughout that challenge was to like listen to my body
Mm,
because I always say the pussy calls, but most of the time we shut it down because for me, it often calls in the middle of the, I'll get a little tingly and I'll be like,
mm,
oh, and if you work at a company
mm,
or you have kids or whatever, we automatically kind of squash that down because we've also been taught that the time to do that to have
mm,
your orgasm is in the evening behind closed doors when it's dark. You know what I mean? That's our conventional idea of when sexual pleasure happens. But the
mm.
reality is that does not exactly always match up with what your body wants. Like my body tends to get in the mood midday.
Me too. Wow.
Um, yeah, it's like when my energy is up. That's why I have a
Mm,
toy in the bathroom
mm.
and I have a toy in my bedroom, and sometimes I have them like stashed in my living room and stuff like that. So if I have a moment of privacy, or you have one that you can take in a handbag with you. So if you need to slip
Wait, so
off
out and
into
about. Wow.
kind of exciting that
Where's
you're
the most
mixing it up.
stirring place you've had your daily orgasm?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I've had them in public
Mm,
bathrooms. I've had them, just wherever I was out. I'm trying to think like definitely public bathrooms. But the nice thing about now the whole, having non-gendered bathrooms
mm.
is that a lot of them now have full closures,
I was just thinking
right?
the same thing. So I went to the States last year and I was thinking, why do they only have half doors? This is not cool.
Right. So now that's not as much of a thing because now
Mm,
it's like the all gendered bathroom.
mm,
Uh, that became a thing. Who knows what will happen now with it? So they
mm,
started making a full closure,
mm,
which is great. You just go in and you shut the door and you have your orgasm. You have a
mm.
moment to yourself. So I think the thing that was hardest
What
for
about the
me in 2020,
sound, the vibration and your moans? I mean,
some quiet toys out there. Quiet. Well,
okay.
and there were times when I had to just
Keep
use my
flushing.
hand too. There were times when I had to use just I mean, actually, when it was hardest was when I had a friend staying with me, or like a friend and I went and stayed, and just a friend at in a hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Can you go get the coffees?"
So let's get my
Because I didn't
orgasm
want to
in.
be like, "I need you to leave the room so I can get my daily orgasm." And that was really hard. And then the other times that were hard is I got COVID during that period of time, like twice.
Mm.
It was, which was having an orgasm when you're not feeling well is not. That is something I do not do any longer. And
Do you know what I've found though? When you've got nasal congestion, masturbation just clears it up. That happens to me because my body temperature rises and I just feel like the nasal congestion goes really.
well, and it boosts your immune system
Mm,
too. I
mm,
know that some of the chemicals that you release and stuff like that, it fortifies your immune system. I mean, another funny thing that came out of it is it lowers stress, right?
mm.
Having an orgasm or even just pleasure lowers your cortisol level. And so now when I'm stressed out or I have a deadline or I have something I have to get done right away, sometimes I'll get like suddenly I'll get the pussy will call. Like she'll be like,
And you
"Hey,
have to answer.
right
You've
now
got
I'm
to answer
horny."
that call.
And so I do because I'm like, and then it brings my stress down and I can push through my deadline. That's why I've got my quickie toys where I'm like, all right, she's calling because I'm stressed. But now it's like stress equals horny.
Mm, that's quite a good association.
Ah, funny, right?
Wow. Well, I'm just thinking about all the orgasms. Interesting. So you're still doing the 365 orgasms, or you just kind of like less, you just more kind of
No,
more. Mm,
yeah, I mean, I finished that in 2022 and now I'm offering actually this year. It started January 1st. It's
mm,
called 365 Days of Orgasms. Pleasure is the resolution. So, I'm offering a guided year-long pleasure practice for anyone who wants to join in. It does not require that anyone has an orgasm every day. I think that's
mm.
It's too much
Mm,
pressure. It is focused primarily on women and people with vulva, and their partners can join in and support them. But it's basically a year-long study in how to re-engage with pleasure every day, how to deal with the different things that are shutting our pleasure and desire down. So, like the first couple of weeks, I've been guiding people through um, looking at your environment and
mm,
then figuring out what needs to be in your environment to support arousal. What arouses you that you can put it, whether it's lighting or it's sound or it's the sheets you sleep on, the pillows you have, what lights your body up and creates space for arousal. Exploring sensations that bring you pleasure. It's really starting a pleasure practice at ground zero because most of us haven't had that opportunity to learn the very basics of pleasure and creating a foundation where then we can easily access it. And so I'm going through 365 days of that and sharing on my social media and my website, just a place where they can start the challenge anytime they want, but
mm,
something at daily prompts, something you can do every day to learn or explore pleasure and an
mm.
orgasm if you'd like to.
Seeing as we're talking about orgasms and the possibility of having 365 orgasms a year with Annette Benedetti, why not explore a new pleasure product? I've partnered with Svarcom, an award-winning pleasure brand that offers a wide range of premium products made from body-safe materials. Whether you're looking for a wand massager, rabbit vibrator, clitoral stimulator, wearable vibrator, stroker, cock ring, or something completely different, there's something for everyone. And to make your shopping experience even more orgasmic, you can enjoy 35% off site-wide with my exclusive discount code Venus35. Simply visit svarcom.com, that's SVAKOM.com, and enter the code Venus35 at checkout and treat yourself to something that brings you pleasure. The link is also in the show notes. Enjoy! So what would you have? Have you had today's orgasm? Have you had
Me too.
today's?
I have not had today's orgasm,
Neither have I.
but it is queued up. I've got the toy ready.
But something that I find really interesting in my journey, what was really powerful for me, is that I was really into the rabbit, like, 20, 15 years ago. And the best thing ever happened to me, I broke my rabbit. And it died on me when I was about to have an orgasm, and that was one of the best things that ever happened to me because it forced me in the most beautiful way to start connecting with different types of toys. Because there's something that happens as, like neural pathways, we have erotic pathways, and if you're constantly doing the same thing to reach orgasm, the same toy, the same method, then if you change it up, it's going to be a bit, it's going to be different or harder. And I think sometimes that the great thing about having lots of different toys is that you kind of make this mind body connection, and then any toy will kind of do it, because you've got this erotic thing happening in your mind that's so, or you're really tuned into your body. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. I think that using the same kind of stimulation over and over again,
Mm,
it's sort of like what happens in relationships sometimes that leads to people feeling unsatisfied almost in their own
mm,
relationship is you learn the combination of moves that leads to the orgasm.
mm,
And then you do it every time. We get together, we kiss, we do 69, we have sex, boom, orgasm done. And I think that being forced to break that pattern and to try other things is going to expand your
mm,
experience of pleasure. It's going to create a different relationship with pleasure because I do think that pleasure and excitement around sexuality and sensuality can die really quick when it
mm,
becomes just routine. It becomes a grind. And on my 365 days of orgasms journey that I did in 2022, that
mm,
was one of the very first things I learned. The first week it was all fun to be, oh, I'm going to have an orgasm every day. By week two, I was like, okay, all right. now it's getting boring. I learned really quick that I was my own worst lover. I had like the go-to
Wow.
move. Right? I mean, I'm
Mm,
like, I was just, I was under the covers. I was masturbating like, like we do. And I wasn't making noises. I wasn't moving. And it was really key to step outside of what was standard and typical and to try new things, working with my own sound, working with my own breath, working with different sensations,
mm,
waking up like my body woke up to the ability to like enjoy and experience new sensations. And I
mm,
think that you can take that lesson in your own journey with your own body and apply it to your relationship with someone,
mm,
right? We have
mm,
to do all of the same things in our sexual relationships with other people that we have to do with ourselves to continue being a good lover, right?
mm. What do you think is the biggest myth about sex toys or your work in general, or
Mm.
misconceptions that people have?
Well, I mean, there's the tired old myths about, oh, it ruins a woman's
Mm,
vagina, right? She'll never enjoy being with another person. And that's absolutely not true. Or that it's
mm,
replacing the other person.
mm,
Toys are really there to enhance,
mm,
whatever you have with someone else, to add to it, to help you diversify, to bring pleasure to everybody involved.
mm,
Um, and you can continue to enjoy and experience sex without toys,
mm,
but they're great tools for learning and for expansion.
mm,
And I think, and I hear it mostly from men, this idea that, oh, it's going to ruin her vagina. It's going to ruin
mm,
her pussy. It's going to ruin her vulva. She'll never be able to enjoy a man. But from women on the other side of it, it seems like women are a lot of women, at least, I mean, not in my circle. I tend to run in a pretty sex positive circle, but generally speaking, I think women are intimidated by the idea of toys or concerned about what that means about them. Does it mean that I'm broken, that I
mm,
need to use a sex toy? Does it
mm.
mean that there's something less feminine or perfect about me that I'm needing or I want to bring a sex toy in, you know?
Something I've really noticed a lot is that I get, duplicate toys. So I give a lot of toys away, the ones that are not used, obviously, but not used. But and I give them a lot. I have this skill of being a like personal shopper. Right, when I get to know someone, I can kind of tell what will be good for them. It's something I should monetize this skill a bit more. But what has really surprised me is the amount of women that I know who are, they're very successful. They have lots of money, but they don't prioritize pleasure. Anyone could just walk into a shop or just buy something on Amazon, and they just don't. And it takes me to give them something free, and I really want to give them that pleasure, that gift. And yeah, I just find that fascinating how it's just not really a priority for lots of women. Do you find that?
Absolutely. And
Mm,
they don't even know what it is. That's what I
mm,
found with a lot of people that come to me to work with me. It's like when I say, how do you connect to pleasure? They're like, well, what do you mean? Like, I mean,
mm,
I like this, but it's such a foreign idea to them. I did have a client say something that was really interesting to me because I was like, kind of what I do when a woman comes to me who really feels like I've lost my libido, I have no interest in sex. I'm like, well, let's start putting pleasure back in your life, right? And she said to me, she said, I have this friend who's like the same age, kind of 40s and 50s, where we're also dealing with hormonal changes. And she's like, my friend is so turned on all the time and is having all this great sex. And I don't understand how or why she wants it. And she said, and I was asking my friend about it. And she said to me, well, you are what you eat. It's true.
mm,
And I was like, oh, I love that concept, right? In the sense that if you continue to feed yourself pleasure,
mm,
right, then you tend to become like that person who connects to pleasure and understands it and wants it and yearns for it and like seeks it out in life, right?
mm,
But if you just go without, you learn to be functional without, right?
mm. I think it happens a lot for women, especially because I think we are outsourcing a lot. You know, we're serving others, like we're serving children, serving a partner, and then even the vagina. If you think about it, like the birth canal, the marital sex kind of garage, you know, just like that provides. It's always serving someone else, and it's rarely serving yourself. You know, in those contexts. I think sometimes it takes, you know, it's this kind of re-education of reprioritization. Would you say that's true? Mm.
Absolutely. It's like we feel like we have to earn it.
Mm.
Like it has to be an earned thing. But I also think that for some women, they connect sexual pleasure to, especially, and I'm speaking very cis and heteronormative women who are in more conventional relationships with men. Yes, they outsource the idea of sex and pleasure to their husbands, right?
Mm.
And then so many of them are
Mm.
having lackluster sex, right? Or even
Mm.
sometimes painful or uncomfortable because a lot of men think it means just pounding at you, right? Which can be painful for some of
Mm.
us or uncomfortable. And so they are excited for a time when they don't have to engage in it anymore,
Mm.
right? Because why would it becomes an obligation? It becomes work. It becomes
Mm.
something that's being done for someone else.
Mm.
And I see a lot of that happen. And we don't think about sex any longer as something we're doing for ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think if there's also that fear of if I don't give it to him, he'll look for someone else or he will go elsewhere. Yeah,
Hmm.
needs to be redefined for sure. Mm.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. And looking at it as something for ourselves, like once you can reframe it that way and make it clear to your partner that this is like when we're doing it, it's for both of us, right?
Mm.
And we need to explore and figure out how both of us feel good in this space.
Mm.
That's a powerful place to be able to like assert yourself that way. And my experience with clearly not all, but a lot of men really want that. They really want women to be like, here's what I want, and to
Mm.
be excited about it.
Mm. Definitely. I think it requires redefining how we see sex and what sex is, not just like penetration, but to really change it up. Mm.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. And understanding that it can exist in all sorts of forms, both inside and out of the bedroom. And
Mm.
some of those other
Inside and
forms
outside
are
the
what
vagina as well. Yeah.
especially outside the vagina.
Yeah.
You have to earn your way inside.
Yeah. So a couple of questions I ask all of my guests. What is the book that changed your life?
Ooh, what is the book that
Any
changed
type of
my
part of your life, not doesn't have to be just sex, anything.
Yeah,
Mm.
so recently, Gillian Anderson put out Want, which was
Mm.
um, a sequel to what was, I think it was called Her Secret Garden,
Mm.
that was released when I was very young. And it is the book that I stumbled across while snooping through my mother's drawer. I never
Mm.
ever shared this with her. And I took it downstairs and I started reading it when I must have been in middle school. And that was the book that I think probably changed my life the most. And it's kind of even late, even though I lost my sexuality along the way and my connection to pleasure along the way, it is the memory of that book that really always stuck in my head and that
Mm.
I wanted to come back to because it unlocked the door to so many different fantasies, right?
Mm.
Things that I had no idea were things that people thought about or did. And I think it really took a root in me, and it always called me back. I was like, oh, there are these things that are possible for me to do that I want to experience.
Wow. And did you see it much? Did you remember the first book when you found Want?
Yeah.
Was
Oh,
there lots of
well, so
similarities, or do you think are there new fantasies that you hadn't thought of, or
So it was funny because when she started mentioning that book,
mm.
and like the first couple of times, I'm like a big fan of hers for
Mm.
lots of reasons. But as she was describing what she was doing, I was like, oh, I instantly was like, that sounds like the secret. I think it was called Her Secret Garden or something
Mm,
like that. And then she did say, "Oh, this is exactly what it's based on." Um, and I haven't gotten all of the way through Want, but it's very similar. And she compiled lots of fantasies, and it feels, of course, now at my age and all of the exploration I've done and stuff like that, I obviously, when I was young, I was so very impressionable. So every
mm,
little story in the book, I was like, oh my gosh. And
mm.
now for me, it's more, I feel like, oh yeah,
Nodding.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I'm like,
More
I get this. I get it.
familiarity.
It's just not it's not shocking to me in the same
Mm.
way. Right.
Well, definitely imagine just how would have been like to compile all of those fantasies back then. It's not like an anonymous email like now. Must have been so much
Yeah.
huge personal risk, and then that feeling of being, judged, especially back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Those women are pioneers. Everyone who's in this path, it's just we are kind of paving the way for the future orgasms.
Absolutely. Future orgasms.
Definitely.
Long live the female orgasm, right?
Exactly. So what is a phrase or affirmation or a quote that you live by?
Uh, and I got this from an interview.
Mm.
Sexy is an inside job.
Oh, I love it. Would you like to explain what that
Uh,
means?
yeah,
Mm.
sexy is an inside job. You had brought up outsourcing, and I
Mm.
think so many women, we make our sense of sexiness, of beauty, of um, self-esteem, of eroticness, something we think we're going to get from someone else.
Mm.
And when that is the way that you gain um, a self-esteem in the sexual world, a feeling of sexiness or a feeling of erotic power, it can always be taken from you, right?
Mm.
But when it's something that you build up from the inside out, when it's something that you cultivate yourself, it is something that cannot be taken from you, right?
Mm.
And I think especially when we go through relationships, especially breakups. A lot of women really suffer because they feel like that part of them is also leaving. I think we don't even recognize how much of ourselves we feel like we lose when we lose partners because we're outsourcing our sexual power, our sense of sexy. But when you're cultivating it and a relationship ends, there's less of that feeling of loss because you know that you're whole. This person hasn't taken that. It's not, I always hear women say, well, I'm never going to have sex like that again, or,
Mm.
I'm never going to feel like that. And I don't feel that way because I know that the magic that's taking place in the bedroom is something I'm bringing in, that I own that it's not something that can be taken from me at the end of a relationship. But in just so many ways, it's a way of staying empowered and knowing that this is something that is mine, right? It's mine to tend to, it's mine to lose, it's mine to build and to make into whatever I want it to be.
I love that. It's so empowering. It's actually a breakup that led me to my very first vibrator as well. So breakthrough can definitely be. Yeah, because I was thinking in that situation with this guy who was emotionally toxic but sexually incredible, and I thought I've got
Yeah.
to break the pattern. So I bought a rabbit, and then look at me now.
I hate to say it, but that's kind of my elixir a little bit, the toxicity like mixed with super sexy.
Oh no, it's so
Like,
terrible.
whoa, it is so terrible. It's so terrible, but fun and then awful. But I think also if we look at the
Mm,
concept of sexy as an inside job, in the context of like the social construct, especially sort of our patriarchal makeup here, I'm going to say here in the US because that's
mm,
all I know. Um, and especially as we look at what's going on here with it sort of recently with the Epstein files kind of coming down and realizing all of these powerful figures in our government and in our entertainment industry um, have been constructing like beauty standards and sexiness standards for women
mm,
based on underaged women, girls, right?
mm,
And when we take that power away from whether it is our society or our partner and we cultivate it for ourselves, it's something that's authentic. It's not based on standards that aren't only unrealistic, but also unhealthy and
mm.
violating. right? And we're able to see ourselves as grown women, um, as beautiful at every age and sexy at every age, and understand that there is no wall. The wall is a lie. All of the red pill men out there are saying, oh, women hit the wall at some
Mm,
crazy age to me. And of
mm.
course, you and I know that our sex drive actually
It's
can
unstoppable.
unstoppable. And I
Mm,
don't know, for 40s and 50s have been more
mm.
incredible and more of a turn on than any other time in my life. But again, I'm able to create that sexiness for myself. I don't listen to what's out there to create it.
Amazing. So where can people find you?
My website is talksexwithannette.com. I'm on YouTube with the handle at talksexwithannette. My social media, pretty much everywhere, TikTok, Facebook, is at talksexwithannette. But on Instagram, it's Annette Benedetti. And I'm sharing my 365 days of orgasms, like the prompts and weekly sort of inspirations on social media. You can also go to the tab on my website that says 365 Days of Orgasms there. And I'm just giving you, like, if you feel stuck, you can come and you can go down and try one of my prompts, one of my ideas to unstick you, or you can go through it week by week and follow along with me and give it a try. Yeah.
Amazing. I think I'll be giving it a try after when we finish this. I'm inspired. Thank you so much for
But
joining us on the orgasmic lifestyle where every day is a climax.
every day is a climax. I love that.
I was looking through my books and thinking which one is the most orgasmic, which book is the closest to the topic of today of female pleasure and orgasm. And I decided to choose the book Healing Love Through the Tao, Cultivating Female Sexual Energy by Mantak Chia. I've already read this book and I've already reviewed it here probably many, or maybe dozens of episodes ago, but it's definitely something worth revisiting. This is one of the most beautiful and empowering books about female orgasm, and it takes you into, let's say, an expansive journey of the orgasm that goes really beyond physical pleasure. They talk about the three centers of sexual energy: the physical center, the emotional level, and the spiritual level. I think it's interesting, after having received a religious upbringing where we were taught that, female pleasure was not part of any conversation. It was something that kind of loose women got up to, or it's something that was not really celebrated, quite the opposite, in fact. Whereas this is kind of taking it back to God, for lack of a better word, but kind of like tapping into the spiritual realm of pleasure, which has been denied to us for such a long time. And I just think this is a really beautiful celebration of the gift of life, the gift of pleasure itself. And it talks about energy as well, and sexual energy, and how precious this energy is. And what I really love about this book is that it guides you to really connect with your body through the breath, through energy, through thought, through meditation, and to connect with your organs, not just the sexual organs, but using your sexual energy to actually heal other parts of your body as well. And I think if you have this understanding of sexuality, it can be truly transformative and healing. It can really heal those parts of you that may feel that sexuality is shameful. I mean, obviously, you may need some more help than reading a book if this is something that's affected you deeply, which it has affected many people. But it's a great starting point to actually understand sexuality, or female sexuality, through a Taoist lens. And I love this book so much. It really is like a celebration of something very special and sacred, and something that feels amazing. It's a great way to connect with yourself, with your partner, and with a higher force if you believe in spiritual things. So I highly recommend this book if you want to truly celebrate your sexuality and see it as something not just pleasurable, but as something very divine and very useful as well, for your health and for your overall vitality. And that is Healing Love Through the Tao, Cultivating Female Sexual Energy by Mantak Chia. Now it's time for this episode's meditation. Please don't listen to this while driving or operating machinery. Instead, take a break from whatever you're doing, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and enjoy. I am an orgasmic woman. Thank you for my orgasms. I enjoy my orgasms when shared and when I'm alone. I accept my orgasmic power. I can give my body pleasure. My body is capable of experiencing sexual pleasure. I enjoy my body. I am grateful for the gift of orgasm. I am an orgasmic woman. Thank you for my orgasms. I am able to relax and become aroused. I embrace my sexual energy. I am proud of my sexuality. I am grateful for the gift of sensuality. I make an effort to discover my sexual preferences. I am grateful for the gift of orgasm. I am an orgasmic woman. Thank you for my orgasms. I am grateful for the many benefits of orgasm. I appreciate the feeling of well-being and relaxation that follows orgasm. I send love to my sexual organs. I enjoy my erogenous zones. Thank you for the gift of touch. I am grateful for the gift of orgasm. I am an orgasmic woman. Thank you for my orgasms. I accept orgasmic pleasure. My orgasms are important. My pleasure is important. I am able to guide my lovers to stimulate me how I most enjoy it. Orgasm feels good. I am grateful for the gift of orgasm. To find out more about me and my orgasmic lifestyle, visit venusohara.org or follow me on Instagram. The Orgasmic Lifestyle is also on Substack and YouTube, where you can watch all the interviews with our experts. All the links are in the show notes below. Make sure to search for the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere podcasts are found. And click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks for listening, have an orgasmic week, and make sure every day is a climax.